Cheating Story Lab. Here, each act of deceit has its own backstory in the comments, and I'd appreciate knowing your location. Share a moment when you trusted someone so profoundly that their betrayal seemed to rearrange reality. How do you cope with such extensive deception? Comment below. Label me a fool if you wish. The narratives are what matter now. I never imagined myself in a divorce attorney's office at 42, yet there I was, as my spouse of 16 years feigned forgetfulness about our shared accounts, investments, dreams, and the foundation we'd built together. This ordeal began 3 months ago when I found $60,000 missing from our savings account. When I questioned Natasha about it, her response was peculiar. She wasn't defensive or angry as I had anticipated. Instead, she appeared bewildered, as if unaware of the topic at hand. She claimed not to recall transferring any funds, her gaze fixed on the bank statement, her countenance a mix of confusion. Was this our account? At first, I thought it was a jest. After all, we had been married for 16 years. She was the one who could remember every anniversary, every birthday, even trivial details about our friends and family. However, as days passed, her memory lapses seemed to worsen. She'd forget our previous conversations, struggle to locate important documents, and regard our wedding photos with a distant gaze, as if viewing strangers. When I suggested seeking medical help, she readily agreed, an act that should have been my first warning sign. Dr. Harrison was a neurologist with 30 years of experience. Following a battery of various tests including MRIs, cognitive evaluations, and blood work, he shared devastating news. Natasha suffered from dissociative amnesia, probably caused by intense emotional distress. The last 5 years' worth of her memories had been lost to her. Though uncommon, he assured us it wasn't impossible. The brain may shield itself from excessive stress by suppressing painful recollections, but sometimes takes cherished ones as well. Overwhelmed, I held Natasha's hand while she wept, haunted by the thought of being an unfaithful husband. Her theft suspicion now seemed trivial compared to her medical predicament. My sole focus shifted towards assisting my wife in recovery. For weeks, I served as her caretaker, presenting her with old photo albums, reminiscing about our romance, hoping to jog her memory. She expressed thanks but remained detached, as if discovering a stranger's life. For 16 years, we shared warmth, now replaced with polite cooperation, until she requested a divorce. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, saying, "I'm sorry, but it's unfair to you. I can no longer feign feelings I don't remember having. Somebody who can truly love you." My heart broke, but what could I say? How do you battle amnesia? How do you persuade someone to love you when they can't recall the reasons for their initial affection? Our divorce process commenced 2 months later. I anticipated it would be straightforward, dividing assets fairly and moving on with our lives. But Margaret Vance, a shrewd lawyer representing Natasha, had other plans. During our first mediation session, she declared, "Given my client's medical condition, we cannot recall the financial arrangements and agreements made during the marriage. We require complete disclosure of all assets, as it's believed she deserves considerable assistance due to her current cognitive impairments." Natasha, who once managed our taxes, negotiated our mortgage, and expertly handled our investment portfolio, now claims forgetfulness about essential financial facts. "I apologize," she said when our gazes locked. But details from the past few years are all but erased. The pressures were overwhelming. Ms. Vance contended that Natasha's inability to recall contributions to our shared investments warranted an uneven distribution. They sought possession of the house, 70% of our savings, substantial alimony, all based on her alleged memory loss regarding our financial union. My lawyer, Robert Klein, was incensed. "This is preposterous," he confided in me. "She can't be held responsible for what she doesn't remember." Despite Natasha's amnesia, marital assets are still divided equally according to law. They are using her condition to manipulate the system. But proving someone is feigning amnesia is challenging since there's no specific test for it. Dr. Harrison's diagnosis was genuine, supported by real symptoms and medical evidence. If Natasha was pretending, she managed to deceive a neurologist convincingly. That's when I made a crucial decision that would alter everything. For weeks, I had been questioning small inconsistencies in Natasha's behavior that didn't align with her condition. So, I set up a hidden camera in our living room to allay my doubts. The recordings from the following 2 weeks eroded any lingering trust one had in my wife. The first one depicted her on the phone, discussing investment strategies with the knowledge and expertise of a seasoned financial advisor. She was intimately familiar with every aspect of our investment portfolio. Each stock we held, every account balanced precisely. This wasn't the disoriented woman from mediation sessions. Rather, it was a different person. The second recording revealed her actions were far more incriminating. Natasha was navigating bank accounts I hadn't even known existed, manipulating funds with the meticulousness of someone who had been planning this for quite some time. At one point, she emitted a chilling, calculated laugh I'd never heard from her before. However, it was the third recording that confirmed my suspicions. My wife of 16 years was seen coaching herself in front of a mirror, practicing confused expressions and rehearsing "I don't remember" responses. She was preparing for our next court appearance as if it were an acting role of tremendous significance. "Remember," she told her reflection, "trauma can cause memory lapses. Stick to the 5-year timeline. Be consistent. 2019 details should be kept minimal." In my study, I scrutinized the video footage, sensing an unfamiliar figure wearing my wife's visage. This wasn't the woman I had wedded, the one I relied on wholeheartedly. Instead, it was a master of deception, capable of fabricating medical conditions and tricking legal systems for monetary advantages. The missing $60,000 now made perfect sense. In one of those recordings, I observed her transferring it to an account linked to her maiden name, an account she had established 6 months prior to her amnesia onset. Her deceitful scheme was in motion long before she claimed to have memory troubles. Robert expressed delight upon seeing the footage. "This alters everything," he said. "We can prove fraud, perjury, manipulation of medical experts. She won't simply lose the divorce case. She could face criminal charges." However, I felt devoid instead of vindicated. For 16 years, the woman I thought I loved was non-existent. She had been supplanted by a deceiver, skilled in gaslighting so profoundly that I doubted my own perception of reality. This individual could look me straight in the eye and lie, even with my hand clasped in hers at a doctor's office. On a November Tuesday, the final court hearing was set for morning. Natasha, accompanied by Ms. Vance, appeared with an expression of confusion and vulnerability she had mastered over months of practice. Taking the stand, she testified about memory lapses and emotional trauma, portraying herself as a victim so convincingly that I almost believed her myself. When it was our turn to present evidence, Robert rose with a tablet in his hand. "Your Honor," he said, "we'd like to present surveillance footage that contradicts the defendant's claims of amnesia." Natasha's countenance paled, but she retained her expression of confusion. Vance contested, asserting the video was obtained without approval, yet it was admitted as proof of suspected fraud in court. We screened the initial video depicting Natasha elaborating on our investment portfolio extensively. Her courtroom demeanor had been impeccable, devoid of acting. Instead, sheer, calculated expertise was apparent. The second video displayed her accessing concealed bank accounts, while the third portrayed her rehearsing her testimony in front of a mirror. By the conclusion, Natasha ceased feigning confusion. Her disguise had been removed. "Mrs. Morrison," the judge sternly addressed, "could you provide an explanation for this footage?" As she sat motionless for a moment. Then, a shift occurred in her demeanor. The vulnerable confusion dissipated, replaced by something more calculated and resolute. Upon speaking, her voice had altered too, crisper, more assertive. "I wish to amend my testimony," she stated. Vance attempted to halt her, yet Natasha persisted. "I recall every detail. I've been aware all this time. I sought an escape route from our marriage, and I believed deceit would be less burdensome than honesty." After months of dishonesty and trickery, she was prepared to speak truthfully, but it was too late for truth to make a difference. "The reality is that I lost affection for you 3 years ago," she admitted, gazing directly at me. She remained due to comfort, and because divorce appeared excessively complex, chaotic. When I opted for freedom, I required a plan that would guarantee the most favorable settlement. The judge deemed her in contempt of court and forwarded the case to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. Our marriage was dissolved with a standard 50-50 asset division plus penalties for her fraudulent actions. She lost the house, waived her right to alimony, and acquired a criminal record. Victory should have brought me jubilation, but it was tainted when I found out my trusted ally was adept at intricate deceit. 16 years of matrimony distilled to courtroom exhibits and legal statutes. The most agonizing aspect wasn't the betrayal itself. It was uncovering the lengthy planning that had occurred behind the veil of trust. How many nights did she sleep beside me while orchestrating her departure? How many times did she whisper, "I love you," as she crafted my downfall? Nowadays, I am reconstructing my life with a cautious optimism born from bitter experience. I have come to understand that trust isn't bestowed. It's earned through persistent actions over an extended period. I have learned that the people we hold dearest can be the ones who inflict the most devastating betrayals. Yet, I have also discovered that truth eventually surfaces, even when it has been concealed beneath a web of well-constructed falsehoods. Occasionally, justice surfaces via court processes, while at other times it emerges from the self-fulfilling realization that dishonesty ultimately exposes itself. If this narrative left you as stunned as I was experiencing it, contemplate subscribing to gain access to additional tales about deceit, treachery, and the intricate truths underlying human character. Frequently, the most implausible narratives are those that actually took place.